Welcome to the epicenter of sports and entertainment. This is the Root Dog Show. Now, here's your host, Rudy Reyes.
That's right, I'm the host. That's me. That is my designation. That's who I am. No more, no less. That is who I am. I do what I do. I am who I am, and make no excuses for it, I might add. This is Rudy Reyes on the RootDogShow.com on today's California, today's Canada. Brought to you by two wonderful sponsors. One is SaturdaysCount.com. If you haven't ordered your shirt yet, you should. Take advantage of the opportunity at SaturdaysCount.com. And it's got to be one of the best taglines in NCAA history. Now, look at this from a broader scope, if you will. You have 12 Saturdays, one NCAA football season. You can't win the national championship, or those call it the Natty, for who you know who you are. It's called the Natty. And if you're not in it to win it, you can't make them count. So don't miss out on the opportunity. Go to SaturdaysCount.com. Make them count. All those Saturdays count from 1 through infinity. Make them count. And of course, secondly, and never least and never left out of the conversation, TrophyCase.app. This is an app that has transformed the landscape, continues to evolve with a lot of great talent, a lot of great players, guys that are trying to be seen. I've been doing this for years, and I've been dying for an app just like this, something to help kind of drive the conversation, drive the topic. Who are these guys? Where are they coming from? What are they doing? What are they doing now? What types of modifications? The NFL Combine is right there. I have two gentlemen who will be reporting in a lot sooner than later. I believe it's tomorrow. They'll be arriving at the Combine. At least one will be, and one will be there on the weekends. And it's time to collaborate and get the act together. As you know, the NFL Combine does start tomorrow. So download your free app today at TrophyCase.app. So if you go and find, whether you're on a Google platform or you're on Apple Store, download TrophyCase.app. Be seen, be in it to win it. TrophyCase.app. Make sure you check them out. Another fantastic partner. Always looking for more. Always more, never less. Always more. More is good. More is better. As they say, if it's free, it's for me, and that's the way I like to call it. Anyway, welcome to the show. I wanted to talk about something that's going to be oncoming. If you haven't noticed already, that there have been some changes in the in the Major League Baseball. I'm right off hot off the press NCAA. And of course, that's men's basketball right in the end, nearing the end, heading into a new month of March. Happy March 1st, by the way. Thank you very much, Joan Graham, Rachel Bossi, for tuning in. I certainly appreciate it. I'll get your mentions up before the end of the show. Fresh off, if you like cactus or, the grapefruit thing, and I'm referring to baseball, I'm not talking about the actual vegetation or the fruit, which being grapefruit, very acidic. I can't eat it, but I know the spring training games are certainly on the horizon. And you had a chance to look at the new rules set in 2023 for Major League Baseball. And I say that because we don't know exactly what that's going to look like during the regular season. Of course, the iconic changes, things that will appear as to what they are in front of us on a TV screen, will be witnessed for well over 100-plus games during the Major League Baseball season, barring any unforeseen incidents or setbacks. We look at what the season is going to look like. There are actually quite a few changes. Some of them have been waiting in the wings a little bit. Others haven't really been thought of, and other kind of came in from last year. We're going to go over what those actually are and how they're going to maybe impact the game and be a positive influence, not necessarily a situation where it's going to take away from the fan experience. I think it's going to give more fan experience. And the name of the game, at least in 2023, is action. When I say action, I mean predominantly a lot of the games will clock in over 3 hours and 26 minutes long. That's too long. That's too long for you and I at home. For those that are on the East Coast, when you got to go to work the very next day, baseball ends a little bit later, and you wish you could stay up and actually finish watching the game. I know I found myself in a couple of situations this past season when it came to trying to find out what game I'm going to watch, and it's Pacific time. What time does it start? Because I know, at least from last year's perspective, how is that going to affect my sleep? As though everybody loves their sleep. I know I do. I think more importantly, it speeds up the game because what it does is now you have a shot clock, or rather, in this case, a pitch clock. And the pitch clock basically tells each pitcher that they have certain deliveries that will happen within 15 seconds when the bases are empty. Contemplate another 5 seconds of what they're going to do with the ball once they get into the decision-making process of where they're going to throw that ball to. Now, without getting into too many analytics, it's 20 seconds when all the bases are occupied. Make sure you tune in. This is Rudy Reyes on the Root Dog Show. I'm live here on Coachella Valley. I don't live in Coachella Valley, but I'm in California, and I know where Coachella Valley is, so make sure you tune in on the Rude Dog Show here live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn, for that matter. If not, you can always, in case you missed it, on social media, as well as go to the rudedogshow.com. Make sure you check it out. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting, and we're just now diving into it for a little while here on the show, about 30 minutes, give or take. The batter must be in the box and very alert to the pitcher, meaning that at least 8 seconds remaining on the pitch clock, pitchers who violate that rule will be charged basically a balk and will be given, a ball. And the batters who run foul will be clocked in as a strike. Okay, fine. I like it. It's good, but will that enable these pitchers to throw the balls in timely over the plate? And is it going to be a New York decision, which most decisions up until this year have gone to New York to make the determination as to what the call actually is? It's like an instant replay. And the NFL's adopted it. It's worked relatively well for the most part. I think Major League Baseball, now that they've gone to New York for looking in at games on a real-time situation, is a player out at second? Is it out at first? Was that a foul tip? What was the situation that unfolded that enabled the umpires to go to New York for that call? Same thing could actually happen here, oddly enough. And I look at this and I say, well, the batter must be in the batter's box, and that will alert the pitcher to say, well, here's your pitch clock. Now it's going to start. Now this is where we're at. I know it's odd. I know it's strange. It's almost like an NBA shot clock because there are going to be violations galore. I don't know that pitchers are going to be able to get that ball off in time in order to make that count, get that ball down the strike zone, or do whatever they need to do, whether it's throw someone out at first or pickle someone at second base. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what that actually looks like. Now, on the pitch, from the pitcher's perspective, they're allowed to disengage from that rubber twice during each plate appearance by a batter. And whether you step off of that rubber or you make a pickoff throw, that will reset if more than one runner will advance and get to home plate. So that's going to be interesting whether or not this will actually work out in such a way, or if there will be alterations to this. And I think it's questionable and reasonable to suggest that this is a trial in the making for Major League Baseball. Forgive me, I have to throw my hair back, if you will, here on the show, live for now here on the Rude Dog Show. So with that being said, the other component to all of this is that before these bases were only 13 inches squared. And 15 inches squared. So what happens is that now Major League Baseball says, you know what, we're going to up the ante. We're going to make it going to be even shorter distance between first, second, third home. What it also does is it will allow a base runner off of first trying to steal to second 3 more inches to reach the base. And there's a reason for that. One of the reasons is it prevents collisions. It prevents injuries. It prevents someone spikes going into somebody else's ankle or into their foot or in a high ankle sprain type situation. So it's going to relieve that second baseman from possibly getting injured. Again, this is not real time. This is trying to determine as to what will actually happen during any given game. It's a long season. A lot of teams will have questions in regards to what this actually looks like. Thank you, Rodolfo Flores del Gadillo. Happy day as well from Canoga Park, not too far away from where I am at here in the Central Valley. With that being said, I think it's a bigger target for base runners, and it's going to give them maybe an opportunity, maybe an unfair advantage for some who are not a proponent of such, for lack of a better term, policies that Major League Baseball has invoked to every single team. And you've kind of already seen the results. If you've been watching baseball already, you've seen that it prevents. It's going to prevent a lot of injuries. It's going to prevent a lot of issues in the long term. What that looks like in a game that will be compacted to a little over 2 hours, 2.5 hours, should be relatively funner to watch. I really can't wait to see what this looks like in the regular season and how teams are going to have to adapt to it, how players may have issues adapting to this. This isn't just about the league. This is more about, can the players adapt to it? And if they can, what does it look like for those players? What's it going to look like for the outcomes of games? Is it going to be fast? They're talking about action. I want action too. I don't want to sit in front of a TV for 3.5 hours. I want to see fluid, momentous play. That's exactly what I'm in it for. I'm in it for home runs. I'm in it for dynamic plays. I'm in it for who's going to win versus who's going to lose. That's really what I'm in it for. Not only as a fan, but someone who's watching the game objectively. How's it going to work? Looking at the rules objectively also helps in a variety of ways. Infield overshifts are basically on a no more. I like that move. I think Major League Baseball would be better suited without the overshifts in the infield, because other than when you look at the horrible designated hitter addition, I think that this is something that obviously they need to get rid of that, and of course ban the DH. But when it looks like the overshifts are actually going to happen, teams are going to have 4 fielders and the infield boundary when the pitcher is on the rubber. So they're going to have to pay ultra attention to what's going on in the infield and not to overshift. So that gives them a fair advantage. I know you guys are chomping at the bit, waiting for baseball season to actually start, like regular season, because it's good to have grapefruit leagues. It's good to have, your cactus league. It's good to warm up. I don't know how good it is to have umpires leave a game when the game hasn't even completed yet. We've seen that between the Baltimore Orioles and the Pittsburgh Pirates, as they said, well, we know what, the game's in hand. It really doesn't matter if we're here or not. The game's going to go on. As far as they're concerned, the game was over. I have never seen that in my life. Even during playing, I'd never seen that. I thought it'd be the oddest thing. I would have thought to myself, okay, maybe are their shifts over? Are they done being paid for the day? It's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. But ultimately, at the end of the day, this is going to be really, really good, because teams, as far as the overshifts are concerned, are allowed to bring in outfielder into the game, either in the field or shallow outfield. Now, how do you determine the shallow outfield? Is that the outside between first and second base, or they'd be able to sit there maybe like in a shortstop type situation? Where's the placement? Is there a rule for placement? That is really going to depend on what that looks like. But they're not allowed to use 4 outfielders. That is against a fundamental baseball rule. If you're going to have center field, left field, right field, that other outfielder is going to have to be in a shallow situation, in a shift type situation. My question is, how long is it going to take for a guy to leave the dugout, get into a shallow infield play position in order to be effective to get the ball? I'm all about analytics when it comes to what that's going to look like for Major League Baseball. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be quite interesting to see what this really, really looks like in a real-time situation. When it comes to positioning, all these rules that have been noted will be finalized, whatever capacity that looks like. However, as I had stated earlier, the pitch clock, pickoff throw limitations, larger bases, those are a few of those changes that we're actually going to see And it's going to be interesting to see what those larger stolen bases are actually going to mean to players, to teams, to ones that are going to win or the ones that are going to try to clinch their respective divisions. So it's going to be very, very tightly wound. Rob Manfred has been angling to reduce game times for quite a while now, and I think that pitch clock is certainly a way to go. Now, we look at spring training game times in 2022. We're diving into this for a little bit. I didn't want to touch on it way too much, but because this is part of the new rule set, this is part of the conversation that we have to have. This is what we're actually looking at. In that springtime games were about 3 hours or so. Thus far in spring training, they're averaging about 2.5 hours, as I mentioned earlier. And I think you're going to see a lot tighter math associated with how long these games are actually going to go on. I like it. I want to see this happen in a real-time situation, of course, as I may have already indicated. I'm big about real-time. Practice is practice. As Allen Iverson said, practice is practice. Who needs practice? Well, everybody needs practice, at least to some extent. So if baseball happens to maintain a game that carries over 2.5 hours, it would be the lowest regular season figure seen since 1984. You probably have seen it on my Instagram, Rudy Reyes on IG. I posted a couple of guys back in the 1990s, Mark Ibiza, among some others. Gerald Strawberry, wearing the number 42 for the LA Dodgers when in his time there. Because these are the kind of guys that I remembered growing up in the 90s, actually watching. Mark and I are familiar with one another. We had met when I was at Angel Stadium. Nice guy. Loved talking to him. Loved going into the booth. It was probably one of the best picture-perfect days and the best positioning for anybody who's going to call a Major League Baseball game. Again, as I stated, rules are about action. We want action. We don't want cuts. We want action. When I say cuts in film in Hollywood, we don't want those. We want real time. I think that Major League Baseball teams have positioned themselves as we move into the 2023 baseball season with two fielders on the sides, on one side of second base, and of course, over almost 34% of all plate appearances require an overshift for infielders. And I think it was more seen with left-handed batters come up at almost 56%, which is actually quite different than what you're going to see with left-hand pitchers probably getting more of that percentile or maybe less, depending on the pitcher. It depends on the timing of the throws. And at the end of the day, it's really going to determine as to how good these guys on an OPS and what that actually looks like. Maybe RBI count as well may have something to do with it. There are some games that maybe an all-time low. Overall batting averages have not been that good. They should and could be better. I believe that's one of the reasons why they brought that change in for that shift. Since '68, Major League Baseball has wanted this move, but the ball needs to transition into hits. Thank you, Ferry. I'm trying to pronounce your last name, Burhanuddin from Indonesia. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. This is Rudy Reyes live on the RudeDogShow.com. Today's California. Today's Canada. Go follow at Insider's Guide on Twitter. Go check out two wonderful sponsors that I have. One is SaturdaysCount.com in no specific order, of course. Make each Saturday count. And, of course, TrophyCase.app. These guys are fabulous. I love their enthusiasm. Their app is fabulous for a variety of reasons. And if you download the app, you'll know exactly what those reasons are. So be in it to win it, TrophyCase.app. I believe that Major League Baseball is going to see a lot of changes. And I know the rules are great for this year. I think there may be some adaptations, maybe some differentiation of what that rule would look like as a season goes on. I wonder how schooled these these umpires are actually going to be in regards to these rules. I know spring training is great, but if they're trying to practice those rules, you can't leave the game when the game is not over yet. You just can't do it. It's not going to work. It's not plausible. I don't see any benefit in that whatsoever. So they're going to have to do something different and stay there the entire game in their respective positions, just like players are there in their respective positions throughout the entire game. There's a 30-second timer between batters. I like that. I think that players can usually find themselves out of the dugout after kicking the sunflower seed shells off their shoes, maybe warming up on the outside of the batter's box. I think 30 seconds is probably more than enough time to get these guys ready to rock and roll with some weights at the end of the bat. And more importantly, motion has to begin between 15 seconds or 20 seconds with runners on base. I just think overall, you're going to see what this season is going to look like with these new rule changes. I'm a proponent of changes, but are these good changes? That's what I'm a real true proponent of. I'm not really a fan of changes that just fall by the wayside, that people don't take into account. That they don't really look at the analytics. They just look at it from the outside, saying, oh, well, okay, maybe it'll work, and, well, maybe it won't. No, you can't be on the fence about it. It has to be definitive. And again, as the season goes on, we're going to see how these rules and or / adaptations you're going to witness, whether it's going to benefit either one of the teams remains to be witnessed. I want to see it actually work out in a very, very smooth and formidable transition. This is Rudy Reyes on the RudeDogShow.com. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I certainly appreciate it. Again, go to trophycase.app, go to SaturdaysCount.com. Both wonderful sponsors. Both of these companies are absolutely stellar. Download the free app if you're an athlete trying to get the word out about what you're trying to accomplish, and that's, of course, getting to the next level. MLB, NFL, NBA, MLS, and NBA for that matter. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I certainly appreciate your time. Thanks for spending a lot of time with me tonight, almost 30 minutes. Joan, thank you. Rachel, thank you. And of course, Rodolfo Flores Delgadillo, happy day as well in Canoga Park, California, down south from where I'm at. And of course, good evening from California and good morning to Indonesia. Thank you, Fedi Bunhanudin. And of course, Rodolfo, I can't forget you. Thank you again. I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Like it, love it, share it. Go to theRudeDogShow.com. That's theRudeDogShow.com. Throw me a follow on Twitter and subscribe on YouTube. This video will be posted there as well as on theRudeDogShow.com. So check it out. I appreciate your time. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great evening. Take care.